And we are live. Here we are, guys. Welcome, and g'day. And if you are watching this live recording of the Geocaching Downunder podcast, a big warm welcome to you and to those watching us in the replay as well. Shortly, we'll be starting. I always do that. If you're watching this, whilst we endeavour to read all your comments, etc., throughout the actual podcast itself, we do sometimes miss a few. So remember though that we do stay on after the actual recording of the podcast, and we'll chat with you a lot more at that point in time as well. So with all that said and done, and who we've actually got online tonight, before I introduce the man himself, as you can see him right there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to remove from the stream. There you go. He's removed from the stream. So I think I've ruined it anyway. Who's actually live with us tonight? Kim and Ben, Kitty Catcher's on here as well. Tattooed Squared, g'day. Curious Kiwis, you're here. No, Curious Kiwis. Oh, you can't make it. That's all right. The truck is in the house as well. Look at you. Let's see. Julie is here. PC is here. Ozfox. And Fix It Fingers, welcome. And howdy to you all. All right. Without further ado, because I think this one's maybe a bit longer podcast than normal because of the man himself that we've got coming on onto the show. I'll introduce him now. He is. I'll introduce him to you guys, the live people. He is a well-known, prolific geocacher in Australia, not just anywhere else, but also in Australia. Number one in a number of different avenues as well. And he is TankEngine himself. G'day, mate. How are you going?
Good evening. See Marshall. How are you going? I'm well.
Good, mate. Good. So there he is. I didn't know. I should have surprised it better, but I didn't even surprise it better, but that's all good. All right, we've also got now, I can see Gazza's on as well. Andrew Barker, welcome. John Buxton is here. Sebastian Marwick, welcome, mate. Marwick. All right, we're going to get straight into this podcast, so stand by, guys, and we'll get recording because I think we have a lot to talk about with this man they call TankEngine. Here we go.
Geocaching Downunder, the awesome podcast about geocaching. Your host, myself.
Yes. G'day, guys. See Marshall here. And welcome to episode number 20 of the Geocaching Downunder podcast, recorded live on the 3rd of April in 2020. A big thanks to the Travel Bugs for supplying the intro, as you can probably hear, and they can be seen at hopefully it's this year's HQ event. So just another reason to get over there in Seattle in August as well. So without further ado, or however you want to say it, joining me tonight is a man. He's a man that is very well known in Australia. He is, I believe, a charter member from February of 2002. That's right, 18 years or more than 18 years now. He has over 15,000 finds and almost 900 hides. A man who is loved by all, the men they call TankEngine. How you going, mate?
I'm well.
Nice little build-up for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Mate, well, let's be honest here. I'm not lying. I mean, when you go to mega events and stuff like that, you're mobbed. You know, people come to you all the time. They chat to you about things. People who don't even know what you look like, that hear the word TankEngine and their heads spin around. They know of you, mate. They know of you.
I think that's because I used to stick stickers in all the cache boxes, and I always wondered who was that idiot.
Was that it?
Maybe, I don't know.
All right, mate, we're going to find out a lot more about you very, very soon. Thank you so much for joining us. But we're going to go straight into the geocaching news and events. Now, as everyone is now aware, with all the current local events have been archived by the reviewers, and all community celebration events have been retracted, not archived, but retracted. They can be completed again after all the local bans have all been lifted. So we're all looking forward to that. I hope everyone is actually staying safe. If you're staying inside, if you're in lockdown, because different states are in lockdown now. I believe Queensland and Victoria are in more of a lockdown than New South Wales is, which is unbelievable to me. But if you are, remember, last episode of the podcast, I put out with Ziggy AU some information about what you can do that's geocaching related if you are stuck inside. So make sure you see that as well. Meanwhile, we're going to get straight to the different mega events that would have happened. The first one is GeoVenture. GeoVenture 2020 was in Millicent in South Australia, GC82DAN, scheduled for next weekend. That's been postponed to later on in the year. So still have a look at it, guys. Still have a look at GC82DAN. And I do believe these guys as well put out a newsletter. So jump onto their website and click for their newsletter also. After that, WA Goes Big. Guys, WA Goes Big is supposed to be in May. It is actually being cancelled. So not postponed, but actually cancelled for 2020, unfortunately, if you were going to that. After that, the Oz Geo Muster in July. That was in the beginning of July. That has been postponed a whole 12 months. So that'll be in the beginning of July, I do believe, next year in 2021. A bit more to come about that later on. Then, of course, the HQ celebration event in Seattle, Washington. GC896PK, that's on a watch and act at the moment, so we'll see what happens with that. This is the big one, guys, the Geo Woodstock 18 in Abbotsford in BC, Canada. That one there is GC86VDF. That's also on watch and act, but guys, if you think about going to that, get your will attends in for that one there. It's almost there for the Giga, so it's almost going to go Giga. And I think there's about 100 or just 102 or something Australians going to that. Are you going over that, Mr. TankEngine, Thomas?
Yes, if it's on.
Yeah. Awesome. Then after that one there, we have New Zealand 2020 in Auckland, and that's in October. GC87777. That's also on watch and act. And so is the last one here in Australia, and that's the Victorian Mega in Whittlesea. The 14th to 15th of November, GC8EW40, also on watch and act. I mean, let's be honest, this thing's been going for a while. They say 3 months, now they're saying 6 months. You know, I'm not sure where we're at. So, unfortunately, guys, all I can say is make sure you stay safe. Make sure you abide by all your local regulations. And I do know now that the whole of the state, but also Australia, and the whole of New Zealand as well, cannot publish caches, so we can't publish, and just make sure that there's no reason. I don't think geocaching is not an essential thing to do. So if you're in lockdown now and you can only travel for essential things such as food, only travel for food. That's my opinion, and I think it's the opinion of most of the reviewers at this point in time as well. And geocaching is not an essential thing. People have been saying about. You've probably heard this too, Thomas. People have been saying, "Oh, geocaching, it's all about exercise and mental health and blah, blah." That's an excuse, isn't it?
No,
really,
no,
let's be honest.
you do need to get a little bit of exercise.
Yeah, but the exercise they're referring to is walking around the block of your house. They're not referring to you driving somewhere for the purpose. You're not going for the purpose of exercise. You're going for the purpose of getting a cache. Let's be honest. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Julie on YouTube. She says that we've already lost Mingo, so please give us Geo Woodstock. Exactly right. I did hear that too during the week. If you're going to Mingo over in the States this year, that has been cancelled, I do believe. So yeah, hopefully Geo Woodstock is coming through. And DTY in YouTube as well. She states, "I'm crossing everything for a miracle." I think we all are. I cross everything I can. I can't cross my toes. I only have 9 of them. But anyway, exactly. All right, guys. Make sure you keep up to date with all those events that you may be going to. Have a look. They've got Facebook pages, they've got web pages, and to keep up to date with them. And actually, I saw that the flights to the US in August are really, really cheap at the moment. Like I'm talking $800 from Sydney. You know, return to Seattle. So, you know, it's a possible to if you book it now. I'd buy the insurance. If you're going to book it, buy the insurance. So then all you lose is your insurance money. You see, so it might be. I might go ahead. It may not. Who knows? But you know what? It's a risk I'm willing to take. So I'm looking into purchasing this week. Have you got your tickets yet for over there? No.
I do. Yes.
Oh, you got your tickets already?
Yeah, we got them ages ago.
Did
Maybe
you
not 800 bucks, but I think it was $900, so it was still quite good at the time.
Oh, that's not too bad then at the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good indeed. Very good. All right, guys, enough of the chit-chat about everything that's happening in the world. Let's get on to the most important thing we are here tonight, and that is for Mr. TankEngine himself. So we're going to have one more little music break, and then we're going to talk to the man, the TankEngine man. Here he is. Okay, guys, nice little quick little music break there, just to break it up for you guys. TankEngine, also known as Thomas as well. Thomas is your real name. And now, how did you get the? There it is. How did you get TankEngine? Is it because of Thomas?
But basically, my cache name used to be Thomas S when I started, and and I don't know. After many events, all the kids would come up and they'd ask me my name, and I'd say it was Thomas, and they'd always say, "Oh, you're Thomas the TankEngine."
Ah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, well, it made sense.
Now we're talking predominantly about how to hide a cache tonight. For those newbies out there, and you know what, maybe some of the old ones as well might need some hints and tips. Trust me on that. I think they do, because mint tins aren't the best. But that's my personal opinion. They do have their place, I do believe. Don't all hate me at once. So that's the main topic we're talking about. But before we talk about that, we'll get into the reason why I've asked TankEngine along to talk about it. Number one for me is the fact that you've actually got like 873 hides, and you've still got actually 801 active.
Well, that's it. And I've been hiding them for many years. I mean, I've been doing it for many years, and quite happy to say no power trails amongst it. It's not like a 800 cache power trail. It's all individual caches.
Wow. Now I did go through a few of your Project GC stats themselves, and you do have all different types. I mean, you don't just do traditionals or whatever. You do different types as well. What's your favorite type to actually hide?
No, I do prefer the traditionals.
Yeah.
Most people do it traditional. I mean, the thing for me for hiding a cache is the location. That's the primary aspect. It's the location. It has to be a good location. I want to take somebody to that location. And when they are there, I don't want them to, puzzle about and try to find it. It's all about the location and maybe a nice find once they get there. If I can't put something at that location for whatever reason, there's another cache nearby, or for whatever other reason, I might make it a multi. And yeah, I'll do some puzzles and where I goes and other things just to mix things up.
Yeah. No, I saw that in your stats as well. Very, very, very pleasing. What I actually liked about your stats is the amount of individual finders that have found yours over the time. I mean, you've got caches though that are obviously predominantly Canberra, but they're outside that too. Yeah. Whereabouts in which states have you got caches in?
Well, obviously New South Wales, ACT, the most of them, New South Wales, and the only other state is the Northern Territory, because we used to go there for work a lot years ago, and there was no caches. So I hit a couple up there before that 161 kilometre rule came into play.
Oh, see, me personally, I don't know when that wasn't available, because that wasn't in my lifetime. My geocaching. You must have seen a lot in your geocaching time.
It's changed so much. I mean, in the beginning, it was just a GPS and no such thing as a phone, to cache with.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. No, exactly. I mean, did you ever print out maps and stuff as well, and print out the cache?
It was all paper based. Everything was paper based at the beginning, and it was one of those things. It took me a long time to eventually become non-paper based. It's now completely non-paper based. But
yeah,
at the beginning, it was all paper. Yeah.
I mean, I know myself. I don't have a printer in sight, like in my study. There's no printer here. Everything's paperless these days. Yeah, I can't see going out with like a ream full of paper and just flicking through and dedication.
You write down the stuff on the paper, and then you'd spend a day caching, and then spend another day writing it all up when you got home.
Yeah, exactly. I saw one of your caches. It's GC14BBF, called Canberra Capers, and that's your highest favorite point cache. It's 83 favorites on that one. Yeah. I think that's your highest favorited cache. But in total, you've actually earned over 4,356 favorites. So that's pretty cool.
Well, as I said, I like to try and make nice caches. Although it's a funny thing, favorite points. I've decided. I mean, I've got a lot of caches which I think are in quite spectacular locations, people that find it in their comment, they'll say, wow, what a fantastic cache and what a fantastic location, but they don't often give it a favorite. Whereas, just as a side story, I had one cache which was in an interesting location under some bridges. It never got many favorites. And then one day somebody came along and they wanted to put this little, the Olaf snowman dude in there, but it didn't fit. So they attached it to the outside of the container. So the container now had this little snowman thing attached. And all of a sudden it starts getting all these favorites now.
That's true. And we'll get into that now very soon anyway, because there's a couple of extra things I want to say. And we'll get into that. What makes a good quality cache? What makes a cache worthy of actually getting favorite points? And what makes a cache memorable as well? So it could even be just things like that there, just not having just a plain container, but actually putting something with the container, and all of a sudden people find it memorable, they're cute, they want to take photos of it. All of a sudden then there's talk about it and there's favorite points being attached. So that's another point we'll get to. But the other one I wanted to give you, your first geocache hide is GC2CEA, and you hid that in December of 2001.
That wasn't hidden by me initially, if that's the one I'm thinking.
You adopted.
Yeah, I adopted that one.
Right, yeah, Murrumbidgee Meander, it's called.
Yeah, that's right. So I didn't hide that initially.
I
wasn't. I don't think I was. Oh, no, I don't think I was caching quite then. Yeah.
No, I think you started in the February of 2002, and that's what I looked at. 3 months before, like he's already been out there doing it before he actually made his first line.
That was hidden by some people in Sydney. I assume they lived here before, then they left town, and I adopted that. Yes.
Yep. Now I've looked through. You have a big fan. When I say a big fan, you've got, as I said before, 873 hides, which is a lot of hides. Have a guess. I'm not sure if you know or not. Without looking at the show notes,
I know who you're talking about.
Who has actually found 809 of your caches?
Yes, Stars Align has found the most. And the funny thing is, I've never ever met them.
Oh, really?
No,
really?
I've chatted to them on Messenger and things many times, and they've asked me for hints and pointers and tips, but I've never actually met them.
Yeah. So I looked at that and went, oh, wow, they're dedicated. They've found almost all of yours, which is incredible. Now this is what actually surprised me as well, because there's a few things looking through your stats with a man of your longevity, we'll say, that you're only missing 6 attributes in total for all your hides. Now, one of them, you don't have a night cache.
I know, it's on my list.
Yeah.
I've started looking at recently. I've been looking at some of these things that I'm missing, and I know night cache is something I can easily do, and I've actually bought a little EPIRB, so I can do one of those as well, and a couple of the others, but there's a number of them in there I don't think I can do.
I mean, we can't do them at the moment, let's be honest, but what we can do while we're in lockdown is actually doing what you're doing, that is planning for it. Get your things together, and also probably even build some good caches as well. Give them. There's lots of places you can find hints and tips online. I think
a couple of gadget type caches, and yes, if I'm going to be stuck at home, I might well do that. I do like to do a bit of woodwork.
Well, I see it behind you now. A couple of letterboxes.
So featured back in the our mega down at Queanbeyan, and well, I've got to redeploy them at some stage. I've just got to find a good spot.
Yeah. No, you do need to find a good spot. I was actually listening to another podcast today, and they featured West Virginia Tim. If people don't know who he is a magnificent cache builder, old school cache builder, I say as well, because he builds a lot of his out of just birdhouses. So he builds a birdhouse. Yes. And the simple reason is, and he says this, and he says birdhouses don't really get muggled, because they think it's actually a real thing. They think it's actually a birdhouse. Whereas
it almost looks like a birdhouse. Maybe just paint a small black circle.
Yeah. That's all you need to do. The small black circle, and it looks like a birdhouse.
Yeah.
And less chance of being muggled as well.
Yep.
All right, we'll get to what makes a good hide. Now, as I said before, this is predominantly for the newer players, people who want to start hiding caches and think, how can I do it, and how can I do it, with good quality. You said the first thing was your location and a suitable location. So where we're talking about in terms of location, we're not talking like a guardrail near a main road. That's something that's not suitable. You like views, do you?
Views, or often it's not, even necessarily the actual endpoint, but it's the walk to get there, or the bike ride to get there, and that type of thing. It's about the fresh air, the exercise, and if possible, the location itself. So if there's a waterfall, or if there's something else that people would like to see that's interesting. Mind you, it's getting harder and harder on the ACT now with such saturation we got here.
It's so many. I mean, actually, in YouTube right at the moment, as we speak, we have Daniel Newton, and he says, "I have loads of new caches to publish once we're allowed to again." So he's in the ACT. He's a prolific hider as well. So it is getting harder and harder, isn't it?
Well, there's plenty of locations, but as I said, I like to make mine a little bit special if I can.
Yeah, and you did make a good point as well, and that is to get people to go through a location where there's either a lookout, there's a waterfall, something significant about that location, but you can't hide a cache there. Have that as one of a point of a multi.
Well, that's what I do. I've made that. If you look at most of my multis, that's what's happened. It's either it's going to be too close to another cache, or you just physically can't hide something there because it's going to get muggled or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really good point you make. So there's a bit of a tip for you guys. But we will say this as well, and that is you can't actually place anything that's within 161 meters of another cache. So if you're placing a multi, then it's already got to be like a plaque or something already significant there that you get the information off. You can't actually place anything within 161. So a bit of hints and tips for the newbies as well in that regard. And what else we're talking about? We're talking. You said you like to hike or bike to your locations as well. That's one of your things.
Yep.
So not just walk up, not park and grabs.
No, I mean, I'm not saying I don't do park and grabs. I don't hide park and grabs. I find them, but I don't necessarily hide them unless again it happens something special there. But for me, one of the reasons I enjoy caching is because of the exercise component. It's basically the only exercise that I get, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. So that's a good point as well that you make in regards to the exercise. But then when you actually get to GZ, normally do you like to actually put hard ones in as well? Like I've
got certain ones which are difficult. I suppose it's a sort of a balance. If I hide it in an urban place where it's fairly easy to get to GZ, then I might like to make it difficult and hard. That's the challenge for that cache. But if I'm going to put it somewhere in the Magi up some mountain, I'm not going to make it hard to find. I don't want you to spend 2 hours to get there and then not find the cache. If you spend 2 minutes to get there, well then, hey, if you don't find it, you can come back.
and that's a good point. My personal opinion is I enjoy the ones that are actually hidden in plain sight. The ones that you walk past. If you didn't know what geocaching was, and all of a sudden you find out what geocaching is, and you realise I've just walked past that thing there, not realising it was actually a cache. I thought it was something to do with the building or whatever else. They're hidden in plain sight. So one of my favourites. Do you have any of those at all?
I have some of those. Yes, some of my Bridge Banter series are like that. I've got one at the lake which is like that, which has a fair few favourite points now because it's once you see it, you just think, oh my goodness.
Well, actually, as you mentioned that Kitty Catch on YouTube, she says that bridge banters equals tricky little caches. So there you go. She's already said that she likes your bridge banters. So
I don't know if she said she likes them.
She said they're tricky little ones. That means she probably likes them. If she this way, she's remembered it. So you know what I mean. If she's remembered it, that means it's memorable. Because you think about it as well, there's some caches out there that are really, really difficult. But once you actually you go back, you might DNF it 2 or 3 times. When you go back and you make that find, the feeling you get, and you just go, without swearing, but you just go to the CEO, you're a bastard. Like, what are you doing this for? That sort of thing. And to me, in my mind, in most cases, that earns a favourite point. That's memorable.
Yes, I think so. And you're right. Quite often the memorable ones are the ones that you give favourites, and even if you did curse them at the time.
Exactly, and we do. We do. Now we're moving on to number 2, and so we've got basically the location is one of the things you must look at. Number 2 is actually obtaining good coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you obtain your good coordinates?
Yes, I'm quite particular about that.
Mm-hmm.
I still use my GPS. Possibly, maybe you can do them just as well with a phone nowadays, because I do cache with a phone quite a bit, and I do see that it's quite accurate now. But I still like my GPS. I'm still an old school for that. And so what I'll do is I'll get to the spot, and once I've decided where the cache is going, I'll take a waypoint. And then whilst I'm preparing the cache or whatever I'm doing, making notes to myself about the cache, usually within the next 5 minutes or so, I'll take another waypoint. And I usually do that over 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how many trees there are and how much the waypoints move. Because when you start taking these waypoints, you can see how far apart they are. And if they're a long way apart, you've obviously got a difficult sky situation. More. And if they're all close together, then I might only take 3. But, you know, at the end of the thing, that's what I've done. I'll come home with it. I'll put it into my base camp. I'll use base camp, and then I'll average them out from there. So, yeah.
A lot of people, especially new geocachers, they don't actually have a GPS. I've never owned a GPS. I've always been a phone cacher. And I use Cachely as my app. So I'm iOS, and I find with Cachely, when you're there, if you touch yourself, if you touch your location on the Cachely app itself, it actually tells you, it gives you coordinates, but then in brackets, it gives you a plus or minus in meters. So it may start off at, like, you know, plus or minus 30 meters, plus or minus, and it will reduce down. I will literally leave my phone sitting there on that and just watch it. And when it reduces down to under 5 meters, under plus or minus 5 meters, I click on that and save that. Now I do that 3 times. I'm like you. I do that 3 times, and I make sure, and then I average it out. Most of the time, those 3 things are going to be almost exactly the same anyway with the app.
If you've got a good sky above you, then they are very close. But I've had them where sometimes I get frustrated where I have them a good 8, 9, 10 meters apart, even though I haven't moved.
Yeah, exactly right. But then what I do is I'll go home, and then when I'm placing the cache, I actually use the coordinates to place the cache. Again, it's a double check. You know, I'm checking again myself that the coordinates are pretty much spot on. And let's be honest, if they're within sort of 5 meters, you should be able to find it, surely.
Well, as I said again, if it's a trade and I want you to find it, I'll leave a decent hint as well.
Exactly. Now, the other thing I will say, and you've got this in your show notes as well, and that is, if you're in an urban area, especially like Sydney or in the middle of Canberra or whatever, and you've got a lot of tall buildings around, I don't even use my GPS, like or my phone, to actually, if I want to mark coordinates to place something, I use Google Earth. And with Google Earth, you put a pin down pretty much exactly where it is going to be, and that is more accurate in my mind than what any GPS or any phone is. So I quite like using the Google Earth or you can use it as a secondary option as well, you know, to double check.
Well, I use it certainly as a secondary option, and I think everybody should do that, because the number of times I've gone to find a cache and it's way out, you think to yourself, well, if you had to check this on Google Earth, you would have noticed.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've got one hidden at Central Station, and people say, you know, my coordinates are bouncing everywhere. Hello, you're actually underneath a massive big awning. You don't have visible sky. You cannot see the sky from where the cache is at all. There's buildings and there's awnings, and I say just look at Google Earth maps. You know what I mean? So and go from there. I've got Kitty Catch again. She always comments. Tank's caches have always got good coordinates. So there you go. She's a big fan, and we've also got Gary Tattersall, Tattooed Squared, saying, we enjoyed the virtual animal antics that TankEngine has in the Lake Tuggeranong area. So you got a virtual in there. Was that one of the old ones or the new?
That's an old one. Yeah, that was one of the old ones. If I had known they were going to get grandfathered at the time, I would have made a lot more. But I did. I did receive one in the handout that they gave, and so I now own 2 virtuals. But yeah, that's it.
Yep. And we have we've got a review on. We have Riblet. Riblet's on saying the accuracy of Google Earth varies, so use it as a backup. And that's a very good point there. Riblet, also known as I can't even pronounce his real. He's changed his name. He used to be iRiblet. He's now is it Tiddalik. I can't even pronounce it properly. I probably not even pronounce it properly as it is. But yeah, Google Earth varies, so make sure you use that as a backup as well. So that's a very good point there from the reviewer. And thanks for joining in, mate. Thank you very much. Going back onto virtuals and also now the lab adventures. If someone gets a virtual now or a lab adventure, what's your opinion on what they should do roughly to make it actually the quality worthwhile?
Well, I think the ACT certainly has had a big share of the lab caches, and by and large, everybody's done something very nicely with it. You pick a nice, interesting spot, something where you can't really place a physical cache, and you turn that into a sort of a multi in a way, but it's more elaborate than a multi, and it works quite well. So again, you want to get a good spot. You don't want to just do it around the back of your backyard or something. But I did mine at the War Memorial, which unfortunately now closed, so you can't find it. But it'll hopefully open again soon or eventually. And others have done other institutions or something around the city, or they've all found something interesting to do.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of a tip as well in this regard. We were saying before about the 161-kilometre rule. What that rule was referring to, what Thomas was referring to, if you didn't realise, where you live, your house, you're not allowed to hide an actual physical cache that's outside 161 kilometres from your home location unless you can show and prove you've got someone, a local, that's going to actually maintain your cache for you. You will have to provide the reviewers with a lot of information about who it is, have their contact details, and there's a lot of work to go involved with it. However, you can hide, or not hide, but you can actually place an earth cache anywhere you want. There's no rules with earth caches. I've got an earth cache. You did my earth cache this year or end of last year. The one that I placed in ACT. I placed it right under your noses, guys.
The one in Parliament House, I forget.
Yeah, it's inside Parliament House. Inside Parliament House.
That's good at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It is actually. So I've disabled that one as well because it's shut. But yeah, that's a lot of people don't realise that. And I'm always, wherever I travel, I'm always looking for geological phenomenon or geological experiences for people. And that one was I was down that way for the mega. And I was inside there doing the lab caches up the top, getting coordinates for this, that, and the other. Obviously, I'm a visitor as well. And as I'm walking in through the patio area, I heard one of the security guards say to someone else, like a little tourist, saying, "Oh no, there's Sean the prawn there. It's a fossil." And as soon as he said fossil, my neck snapped. He just said, "Like what?" And it made me look down. You know what I mean? And then it made me look around. I thought, how many fossils are actually inside Parliament House, which people don't know about? And I'm like, how is this not an earth cache already? With you guys, with ACT, I'm thinking, I am going to be hated by all the ACT geocaches out there because I just placed an earth cache right in the middle, bang, underneath your noses going, there we go, guys, look at that. So,
good. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, but with that one, because it's inside Parliament House, I did actually have to seek permission through the right channels as well, because it's inside Parliament House. So I did seek permission, and they were really, really helpful. They gave me so much information about Sean the prawn and where everything was from. Oh, they were really helpful, and they basically said as well that if anyone wants to find it and they can't find it, come and see us at the desk and we'll show them and blah, blah. And so they were really.
I was there. Yes, we did get assistance. Yes.
Yeah. So no, that was lots of fun to do that one. And our Earth Cache review, a big shout out to our Earth Cache review, ANZ2, I think it is now. That he was very good. I had emails with him back and forth about 3 different times, and he's very, very helpful. I was asking him this question. He goes, that one there doesn't really relate to it this way. Try and ask it in this way, in this form instead. So what my thoughts are of that, guys, if you're thinking about it, don't be scared of the reviewers. They're there to help us at the end of the day. If you have a cache in mind and you think, is this allowed? Is this feasible? Send them an email through Facebook if you want, or you can actually start creating the cache page and just do a cache note for them and submit it, just saying it's a note only, and then they can go through and check it and then be back and forth with you in that regard too. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. All right, apart from that, what else we've got next is the actual the containers that we use for the actual cache placements. Now, we were talking before, again, what makes a good quality cache. We're not talking a mint tin and a card rail here. You know, let's be honest, guys.
I'm happy to say with my almost 900 caches, I have never hidden a mint tin.
I'm sad to say I do have one mint tin out there. I do.
I think I do have a mint tin at the moment, unfortunately, because I had a cache which, well, occasionally get muggled, and I think it was actually, in any case, the people that went to look for it found that it was missing, and they actually contacted me and asked me and suggested whether they could replace it. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I thought, well, I can't get there quickly, so yes, okay, you can, I'll let you. And they put it in. I will have to go back there soon and fix that.
Yeah. Just quickly ducking back to what we were just saying before about the location, because we've got a reviewer on. I'm gonna use him a lot. Our reviewer, I'll say iRiblet because that's what I'm used to. That distance isn't fixed. So in other words, the 160 kilometers isn't an actual fixed distance. There are circumstances that allow placements of more than 160 kilometers from home. And then he goes on to say, some people regularly travel between points 200 and 300 kilometers apart. As long as the circumstances are actually explained in the notes on the cache page to the reviewer, and they keep, because all that information that you've explained stays on your cache page, even though no one else can see it, the reviewers can see all the notes that go back and forth. None of those notes get deleted. So thank you so much for that information, Riblet. Thank you. So there you go. So you can actually hide ones outside the area, but you've got to really explain as to how you're going to maintain them.
Yep.
And that's all. And that's all it is. And we get to that as well very, very soon in regards to maintenance. And makes a good quality cache. So people say, you know, try and place the largest container you can for the location. You know, that's for swag and logbooks and whatnot as well. What do you prefer to use?
Well, I agree with what you say with the largest container, but if that's an ammo can, well, that's fantastic. I mean, you can't beat an ammo can. But well, I don't know, they're not super cheap and they're not always easy to come by.
Not anymore. And the new ammo cans are plastic. Yeah, there's plastic ones. That's not a real. You know, the ammo cans I like the ones that have actually been painted to match the theme of the cache.
Okay.
See, I like themed caches as well.
So sadly, I don't actually own any ammo can hides, sadly. But I mean, my go-to containers are these ones here now. They're not huge. They're probably not much bigger than the mint tin, but they are basically indestructible. They're watertight, so I've had these go underwater. You know, the river's swollen. They don't leak water. They're animal-proof, fireproof. And if you attach them, you know, they don't wander. So, and because I've got quite a few caches, well, I don't like to do too much maintenance if I can avoid it, and that helps.
Okay, just if you're listening to this in the replay podcast, what Thomas was just showing then was like a metal cylinder, and the metal cylinder is it screws halfway in the middle. Just show us.
Yeah, I think it's in the middle, and so it's a. There you go. You know, they're made of aluminium, I think, and they've got a seal. But the good thing about the seal is that when you shut the lid all the way, the seal is inside the container, so it's not going to be exposed to the sun. Right. Yeah. That's a very good point as well that you made. So yeah, you call them an EDC bison ship? Yeah, they say they're EDC gear. That's what's stamped on the front of it, and so I've been using those exclusively now for most heights. Yep. So if you don't know, want to have a look further, Google EDC gear, EDC GEAR, and you'll see what we're referring to in regards to the actual types of containers that you use. So you're saying before that they're like animal, water, fireproof, even, you know, which is good for bushfighters recently. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say a few of my caches got burnt up, but a couple of them were actually like a normal bison tube. Bison tube was all crumply a little bit, but it still was opened, and I opened it up, and all the inside was just like whole ash. So the whole book was ash. So I've still got that bison tube in memory of it. So I use bison tubes, the small ones as well. If occasionally these ones are too large to put where I want to put it, and I'll use a smaller bison. In fact, recently after the fires we've just had around the ACT and in the ACT, I've taken a few of my caches since then, and the bison survived well, even though they were burnt, but they were still there.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to use the review of all these online. He says the ammo cans themselves are not waterproof, and this is true. They're not actually waterproof. They don't have a seal, like a rubber seal around the edges, so you still have to hide them in different locations where they're not going to be underwater in any way, because they're not waterproof. Some people, what I find they do is they actually put like a lock and lock box as well inside the ammo can, and that contains the logbook and pencil, for instance, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, quickly on that, this isn't in the show notes, but I find that I'll hide a pencil in with the logbook, not a pen. What's your thoughts on that? That's not in the show notes, but I just
it's a bit of a sore point. I no longer supply pencils with my caches for a couple of reasons. A, because people keep saying it's blunt and it needs maintenance, but because I'm using I'm using waterproof paper, and the pencil actually won't write paper. Pens light on it fine. The stuff I'm using, the pens work perfectly fine, but pencil won't. Yeah.
That's interesting. We'll go back as well. Julie on YouTube, she says, and attaching is the next impressive thing, and no one can steal or take. What is she talking about there? How do you attach your caches?
Well, if the location allows, then I usually like to use the little 2mm stainless steel wire, which then I clip on with a crimp. So it's not going to come off.
No, they can't be like it's not plastic cable ties, for instance.
No, the only way to get it off is bolt cutters, basically.
Yeah. Because I mean, we all know, even with those plastic cable ties, let's be honest, guys, these geocaches, they're going to be out in the weather. Rain, hail, shine, and believe it or not, if it rains and then it's sunlight, the sunlight does a lot more to plastic, the plastic container, than what you actually think, and to any plastic. So without even some wind, sometimes if the cable tie's been there for a while, a bit of wind and that cable tie snapped, because of the sunlight and everything, the UV light. So no, it's true. So you use an actual steel cable. Where do you get that? From Bunnings or?
Yeah, Bunnings. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that. And you crimp it, you said.
Yeah. So it's looks like a bolt cutter in itself, but it's got a crimp end on it instead. So you squish the little metal thingy across the end of the cable. They use it in sailboats and stuff like that.
Oh, there you go.
A very strong join. Yeah.
Very good. Now, guys, don't forget, if you want to see any of TankEngine's hides, he's prolific throughout the whole, especially ACT, and just have a look at his geocaching page, his profile, and see where he goes from, and see where you can actually find one of his caches from there. So, next thing you say as well is that that you enjoy the actual logs that you get. Now, this is for people who not only hide caches but also find them. Now let's be honest. If you're a hider, there's nothing more pleasant when you're a hider is to get a log come through that tells you about their day, tells you about their experience in which they had finding the cache. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I like favorite points and stuff, but I'm that's not the thing for me. For me, it's their experience, and for them to tell me their experience. I'd rather them not give me a favorite and say, oh, what a great cache, blah, blah, blah. This is what I did. Oh, I thought about this and I thought about this and I found it this way. I'd rather that than just TFTC and a favorite point. You know what I mean? Is that you? Are you the same?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And that's why it started me on hiding caches. Well, I started at the beginning, but then after I started getting nice comments, it spurred me on. And that's still the case, although nowadays, you get a lot of TFTCs. But I still enjoy it. I've got caches in the ACT, and I still love it when somebody comes up and in their log says, look, I've lived in the ACT for 30 years. I never knew this was here, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we enjoy as cache hiders, guys. So if you're a cache finder, not just TFTC. No. All right, just going back in what we said, Kungula Robbo on YouTube, g'day mate. He says you can buy the wire and crimps from Big W in the fishing department. So you can actually buy the wire and the actual crimps themselves at Big W. So there you go, in the fishing department.
I take that. I've been buying them online, but okay, I'll have a look.
Yep. And our reviewer, I'll go back to our reviewer. He's changed it. He's got different accounts. Watch out, people. He's got different accounts. He's watching us Tidlick Reviewer says, black cable ties last longer than white ones in the sunlight. So they're more against if you're going to use the black cable ties, or cable ties in general, the black ones will last longer. So thanks for that information.
The black ones do last a fairly long time, I found. Quite surprised. Much better than, say, a plastic, system, a container or something. They don't last long.
Yeah. Now, another thing when you're trying to hide a cache and you're looking for different locations, what are your thoughts? So, say for instance, you've got one singular cache somewhere, and it's a really beautiful location, whatever else, and then all of a sudden someone comes through with a power trail, and it actually engulfs your cache. Are you a fan of that?
No. I'm not a fan of power trails normally anyways, as it is, but certainly I've got a few caches which I've put out many years ago, and they're quite nice spots, and then lo and behold, a power trail's come through. And before, where I used to get nice comments because people would see the item that I was talking about and they'd say, wow, I didn't know about that, or this is really cool, and blah blah blah. Now it's just a generic log for the whole power trail, and I just happen to cop it, and often it's so it's not even thanks TankEngine anymore. It's because they just use the tank.
It's copy.
Mine, they just went on straight through, didn't notice anything.
Yeah, it's copy and paste sort of thing. Exactly.
Fine for the power trail, but if you didn't realise somebody else had something in the middle of it, well, now well.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to YouTube again, Andrew BT, he says when Tim, this is talking about locations, when Tim the Yowie Man is doing newspaper articles about the locations that you find, you know you're actually going quite well. What's he referring about there? You know about Tim the Yowie Man. He's down your way. You know what Andrew's referring to?
So I've met Tim the Yowie Man lots of times, and he's a good chap. He does like to make stories in the ACT and surrounds about mysterious things or odd things. Yeah. And we've basically shared, things in the past. I've certainly found locations and posted pictures which have intrigued him, and I've then subsequently taken him to those locations to show him, and he's then put it into the newspaper or whatever he likes to publish. Yeah. And vice versa. He's done the opposite. He's found something interesting, and he's actually let me know so I can put a cache there.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Cool.
It's good.
So again, guys, really, let's be honest. There's the three things we've spoken about that actually makes a good cache if you want to hide it. Number one, location. Number two is the actual cache type. So what is it you're hiding? Make sure the container is of good quality. And then in my mind as well, number three is obviously good coordinates. That makes it helpful. You can probably say, and I'm going to put in the number 4 here. It's not even in the show notes, but number 4 in my mind is cache maintenance. There's nothing worse than going to a beautiful location. You look at and you're there, you're experiencing it the whole lot, and then you open it up and this is a wet, soggy logbook, or the cache container's got holes in it from where it's been eaten by animals and stuff. That's, for me, maintenance is a big thing. I mean, you've got that cache, for instance, the one that's been placed since 2001. How many times do you have to go and fix that up or replace it and replace it?
Yeah, that one has had its fair share. I've probably been, I'd say, 5 or 6 times over the years. Especially in the early days, that was a plastic container, and it was also in a location right on the river there where it got flooded. So I'm not sure when I did last maintain it. I know it's a metal container now, but I think I might have to go back one more time and just to give it my latest incarnation of bulletproofness.
Exactly. And in some cases, guys, I mean, as I said, I heard West Virginia Tim talk about it today, and he said that one of his is a birdhouse one, and it's a toilet sort of. It's a huge favorite point cache, but he's actually physically made that cache 5 times over the past 10 years or 8 years, because he's painted. He's gone back and he's painted another paint job, and each time he just swaps it out. It's exactly the same cache. There's no different. He just swaps it out, and then he repairs that one and does what he needs to do that, and then comes back again when it needs updating, swaps it back again, and that's what he does. So, I think that's a very good and dedicated geocacher right there. So, all right, going on and talking back about the actual logs, guys. If you're logging a cache, Throsby on Church, g'day to you on YouTube. She says, I love a good log too. I've read some funny ones that had me in absolute stitches. I think it's Caro who writes good logs from one memory. So there you go, guys. Good logs are really worth a lot to a CO. Let's be honest, and they don't have to be, oh, this is so good and blah blah. You can just make it funny, do what you need to do, make it different, not just TFTC. That's that's what it's all about these days. So yeah. All right, now you obviously with all this lockdown work and stuff that's happening at the moment, are you guys in lockdown in ACT yet?
Yep. Oh well,
yeah.
I'm allowed into New South Wales, but yeah.
But so what have you? Because you obviously got lists then of what you want to do geocaching when we are allowed back out again. What are some of the things that you're looking at doing? Whether it be like hiding wise, I'm talking about.
Well, I've already got a big list of places which I want to check out for hides. So if they're close to home, I may still do that if I get the chance. But otherwise, for the time being, I might, as you said earlier, do some woodwork and make some things at home, which I can then deploy later. There's got a bit of time for that now. And well, I might just try solving some puzzles as well.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got hides. I'm talking about your hiding challenges that you're setting out for yourself.
Sure.
You've almost hidden. There's 81 in a fizzy grid or a DT grid. There's 81 caches. I think you've hidden what 78 of those in your DT grid. You've got 3 DTs left to go. Did you know?
Yeah, no, yes. I about a year ago, I think, or no, maybe even it's only 6 months ago, I started looking at these things and I saw that in my stats, and so I've started to try and fill that. But it's not urgent on my list. I don't care if I don't finish that this year. I will finish it. And the same with the other one, which is the 366-day hides. In fact, I've got a cache hide for every calendar day now. I hit my last one on the 31st of March.
Yeah.
Now, but of course, that won't be published for some while now, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I wonder how that's all going to go, if and how long this is going to be locked down for. I mean, I'm not sure how people are keeping their streaks up to date, like their fine streaks, if they're still doing that. And you're not a streaking man.
I do have one streak, which can be a bit sad, I have a feeling. I've got the longest first to find streak in Australia, and that might come to a nasty stop.
Yes, right there, FTF streak. What's your FTF streak at the moment?
Is it something like 150 months or something? It's more than 10 years.
No, I've got it here, 140 months.
140 months. 140.
I looked at mine. You made me look at mine. So you've got 140 months. I've got a 36-month streak, and here I am as well. I'm worried as well. April is not going to happen, and it's going to end. But let's be honest, guys. And I'll say this again. I'll reiterate it. And this is also from the reviewers. It is not worth breaching rules and regulations. It is not worth I think it's $1,100 ticket here in New South Wales. It's a $1,300 ticket in Queensland, and I don't know what it is in ACT. But if you get caught going outside, breaching these rules and regulations for the purpose of geocaching, it's not a necessity. We don't have to geocache. It is a choice. It is a hobby. It's the same as going to play squash or going to play a game of tennis. It's a hobby. We don't have to do these things. So, see, tennis, that's a good one. Tennis is good. You can play with social distancing. We can play with you're across the other court, but are you allowed to play tennis now? No, not unless you've got a tennis court in your own backyard. Same. So people say, oh, it's exercise. It's good for mental health. Well, you can say that about any hobby or any sport. So that's just an excuse, I think, for a lot of people. But anyway, that's my personal opinion and thoughts on it. Now, going back to FTFs, going back to some actually pleasing news. I think you have the most FTFs in Australia. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yes, I do think that's the case. I've been working on that stat for a long time.
All I can say is thank goodness I don't live anywhere near you, because I like to try and be a hound as well. I think you've got. I looked at this afternoon. You're on 2,479 FTFs.
Yes.
2,479. That's more than a lot of people have actually found caches themselves, And I
think I looked at that stat last. It's about 16% of my finds. So, not too bad.
And you've got them over actual 8 different cache types as well.
Could do, yes, 8 cache types. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. Now you were saying before about DT grids. I'm just basically reading through your stats here, mate. That's all I'm doing. Because I'm letting you know, I'm impressed. Your DT grid, you've got 78 of the 81 as FTFs. I'm talking about on your DT grid.
I don't know if it's 70. It's close
77.
anyway.
77.
I can't regulate that. That's a bit tough, that one.
Yeah, you're missing 4. You're missing 4 of your DTs on FTF.
It's not like I can, choose when people hide caches.
But don't get me wrong, guys. If you're new to geocaching and you're listening to this itself, FTFs, that means first to find, all right, firstly. So that means that you're actually racing out. As soon as a cache is published, you're racing out to be the first one with your name on that logbook. It's not actually counted by geocaching.com. They don't count FTFs as anything. FTFs is purely a bragging rights, really. Let's be honest. That's what it's more.
Project GC does a good job of logging them.
It does. Project GC does, but it doesn't actually account with geocaching.com if you're new. If you've been into geocaching for a while, FTFs do actually count. In your mind, they will count. Trust me on that. I mean, have a look at Thomas here. They count for him. Who's your and this isn't on the show notes either, mate, but who would you class in your area as your most competitive hounds when it comes to the FTFs?
Well, over the years, that's varied a lot over the years. There's always
recent hounds.
But just like now, I would probably go for Flintstones. There's a cacher called Flintstones here. He's if it's north side, he's probably going to beat me yet.
Yeah. And what about Dark Side Dan? Dark Side Dan was a bit of a prolific hound too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's hit and miss. He can be quite a hound, but then other times he'll be probably at work, so that's good.
Oh, that's right. Some of us have to work. That's what it's about. Now, I will say this as well. You have one statistic as well that I am extremely impressed with. Now, I'm not sure if you realize this or not, or you do know it. You got it. But you are the first person in the entire world to actually find an earth cache. Is that right? That
is right. Funny thing. I didn't even know that when I found it at the time. It was just another cache type to me. It wasn't until the 10-year anniversary of earth caches that someone said to me, "Oh, you realise you're the first person ever to find an earth cache." I'm like, what?
Yeah. Some people don't know that the very first earth cache, guys, was placed right here in Australia, in New South Wales, down the south coast, at a place called Wasp Head. That's the very, very first earth cache was placed down in Wasp Head in New South Wales. And obviously, Thomas here being across in the ACT, just ducked across and grabbed it. So there you go. That's a huge title, man. You could wear that on a shirt.
That one. And no one can take that away.
Mate, I'm telling you now, get that written on the back of your shirt and take it over to Geo Woodstock, and you're going to get mobbed. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, I'd do that. I'd do that in a heartbeat. No, that's awesome, mate. That's really, really cool. And as I said before, you're currently number 1 in Australia when it comes to your FTFs and your FTF streak as well.
Yes.
Yeah. People don't know.
The only consolation might be that if my streak ends, that, well, most probably everybody's streak will end in Australia. So
I'll be honest with you, mate, Thomas, everyone's streak should end. In Australia, it should end. It came from the reviewers. All the reviewers, all the states are not publishing caches anymore. They don't want you to go out. They don't want you to breaching rules. And let's be honest, guys, it's just a hobby. You know what I mean? It's not worth risking. And that's the other thing I like to talk about, and that is, here I am. I'm 44 years of age. And I think if I get this virus thing, it's not going to affect me. All right, I'll have a cold. I'll stay at home for 2 weeks. Whatever needs to happen. Whatever needs to happen happens, but I'll get over it. That's it. What I'm more worried about is in the week and a half or 2 weeks leading up to me showing symptoms, especially in my job, because I'm an essential worker, is how many people that I'll actually infect. You know what I mean? So it's not about me. I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about everyone else that I'm going to come in contact with. And you do, no matter what, guys. People say, I'm going to jump in my car. I'm going to go to a place where there's no one about and whatnot as well. It's still not worth it. It's not worth it at the end of the day. Not worth it for a streak. For an FTF streak or for a normal a normal caching streak either. So, but again, guys, that's my opinion and the opinion of the reviewers. But we are not we're not the gods of geocaching. You can still obviously people do what they do. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse now. It happens. Oh, and look at that, our reviewer's gone. Tiddledick says, I have to leave. My wife wants the room and TV. Bye all. See you, mate.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for joining us and had some good questions there. Pretty cool. All right, mate. Well, if you've got anything else to say, we're going to leave it there. It's been an hour now already. Look at that. How quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've covered most of the stuff that was in the notes. I'm just going to check them myself, but I think we've covered all that. So
we covered a lot.
Yeah, I haven't got anything off the top of my head.
Exactly. And don't forget, guys, if you're watching this live, don't go anywhere. After we finish the actual podcast recording, we'll stay back with another 5-10 minutes and talk to you all as well. So, all right, Thomas, thank you so much for joining us, mate. I'm going to take you off the screen, etc., because I've got to say the goodbyes and go from there. So thank you so much for joining us, mate, and I'll see you next time on the trails.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
See ya.
All right, guys. That's it. Thanks very much to Thomas for joining us tonight, and thank you all for joining us tonight as well. Let me get all things organised here, and we're going to play some music and log this out. But before we do, I will say this: if you don't already know, this is the very last episode that I will be hosting of the Geocaching Downunder podcast. Sadly, it is episode number 20. I thought I'd round it on round figures rather than just keep going month after month. At this point in time, there is no one taking over the podcast. There's been a lot of questions about that. That's not to say that it can't be revamped in months down the track. Okay, so everything's going to still stay online, whether it be all the social media stuff is all going to still be online. The YouTube channel is still going to be online. The podcast is still going to be online. All right. If you find that yourself or a group of people may want to take this over, please get in contact with me. Now, I'm happy to fly anywhere in Australia or New Zealand to actually teach you guys how this is done. It is not that difficult. Trust me on this. I've done this myself now for 12 months now, nearly 18 months. I've been doing this, and I'm self-taught. No one taught me how to do this. So it's not that hard, guys. It's not that hard at all. All right, I'm going to finish it off with some music and go from there. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. As you all know, this is the very final episode of Geocaching Downunder podcast that I'm hosting. I'd like to thank everyone who jumped on the live chat tonight, everyone who supported me throughout all this time of the podcast. And this will be the last time I say it, guys, but this is See My Shells. Oh, it's a bit sad, actually. It's all good. I'm over and out. And we're stopped. All right, I'm gonna bring him back in. There he is. You're back on, mate. You're back on.
Hey.
All right, we're gonna go through now, and let's see who's all on here. Kitty Catch, of course, she's always on. Julie's always on. Good to see you guys back again. Gazza, you know Gazza too, don't you? Gazza's from Goldman, I do believe. Great.
I don't know, Gazza. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
Gazza 959, surely. He's actually Gazza. I think Gazza works in the hospitals too. He'd be busy at the moment. And if that's so, mate, then thank you so much for all the effort that you do, especially in these hard times. So pretty cool. Andrew Barker, g'day to you. Ozfox is in the house as well. I'm going to go through. Ziggy AU is here. She loves her podcast. She normally just starts down. Actual fact, this is a bit of a history lesson for everyone. When I first started doing the podcast, there's a few people that I got a lot of feedback from, positive and negative feedback from. And I take the negative, not negative, but sort of criticizing feedback, which is good. And Ziggy was one of them. And she taught me a lot. And the main thing that Ziggy taught me was Craig, you're not just in front of a camera. In other words, she listens. She used to download the podcast and just listen to it on the way to work. So I'd say, oh, how good does that thing look behind you? But I wouldn't explain it, you see. And so, and so Ziggy said to me, Craig, you've got to explain things more and more. So I thank you all for all your feedback that you all give me. But yeah, Ziggy, I did remember that very, very much so. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Endeavour 3 from Norfolk Island is on there too. You know him, TankEngine.
Yes.
Yes. You've met him. He was with you at that event that was down for in ACT. The day I was talking about, that Ministro had the event in the morning, and you had the event in the evening. And I did the UGC series.
Yeah, I must say, I don't remember exactly. I would have been during that time, but I don't remember which event.
It was the one. It's one of the lead-up events for the.
Could be. Yep.
Yeah. And because Greg was there, and Greg had all his files there, and he was rushing around to all the different people, telling them what they had to do. I loved it. It was great. Kitty Catch. Yes, there. We're not Julie. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong. Ziggy, there you go. Descriptions for your ears. Yes, that's the one. Thank you so much, Ziggy. Awesome to see. Kitty Catch says, "Hey, we're going to see you shake it up in the podcast in the US anyway." Well, it is a possibility. I have been speaking a lot to a few podcasters over there too. So,
you can always include us again. You can give us a call. This thing works over the planet.
Exactly right. The only difference is because a lot of people said to me, "Why don't I keep doing this when I move over there?" But 7:30 p.m. here is like 3:30 a.m. in the morning. And I'm living with someone then too, so having my voice, it travels fair way. It's not the best voices there is. Having them wake them up once a month at 3:30, she wouldn't be happy. So, Chosen 1978. You've enjoyed watching your podcast. Definitely a loss for. Oh, thanks, Wayne. Thank you very much. I was actually someone messaged me today because West Virginia Tim, he lives in obviously West Virginia. Please, he wants to start up a podcast, and so West Virginia is very close to Jersey, where I'll be. It's like, why don't you do the East Coast podcast? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can get a word with him. Have you ever met West Virginia Tim?
I don't think so.
No. You didn't go to the gig in Cincinnati at all?
No, I've never been to a gigger.
You've never been to a gigger? I've got something over the TankEngine. Yeah. There's something. Actually, there's two things I've got. I've also got my streak as well as over yours.
Well, that's possible. As I said to you before the show, I can't do the daily streak because every time a bunch comes out, I get the first of fines instead.
Exactly. And so with a body like yours, mate, you could be a good streaker. I'll just say that. Kitty Catch put me up to say that. No, she didn't. All right, guys. Let's see. Dan Trucker Miller was here as well. PCE, Gaz Kirsch. If I miss anyone, I'm sorry. Richard Kemp, Tattooed Square, Julie, one of my favorites is there. DTY, another one of my favorites. Actually, you do a lot of caches with DTY, don't you?
Yes.
Oh, we didn't bring that up about your big day, your big weekend you had. That was okay. But this is
again.
This is a YouTube only. This isn't going to go on the podcast, but YouTube only. I'm going to go. I've got it. Man, it takes me so long to go through your stats. You realise that, don't you? I want to go into fines. Go into fines. Here we go. Where is it? Just trying to flick through it. All right. Most fines in a day for Thomas the Tank is 642 on a day on 29th of September 2018. The very next day is his second most, which is 245. The very next day is his third highest, 228. So that's like 1,000 fines in a caching weekend. Now, who were you with at that time?
Yeah, no, so that was with DTY and with UBAN. So four of us, yep. No, it was a good weekend. I would never do it again, but it was a good week. We had fun.
That's 600. I don't know. My biggest day was like 215, and literally I was spent on that day. I was.
When they're so close together, and you get the pattern happening, and they were all very close to the load, you can really start to hit them. And as I said, we could have we could have continued, except for the fact of two things. One, well, we found a snake almost towards the end, and that just scared us, and we just slowed right down.
Oh,
And
yeah.
two, there was the choice of going left to the pub or continuing on, and we decided to go to the pub.
Mate, 100% I would have as well. But in saying that, 642, like you couldn't do 8 more.
I don't know that we knew how many we had at that stage anyway. It wasn't until afterwards when we, and it took us a while to reconcile as well until we finally all found that we got the same amount, because everybody sort of missed one here or missed one there. And
of course.
It took us a bit to sort of finally sort that out.
Of course. Well, there you go. DTY, she's there saying we got bored and decided to go to the pub instead of keeping on going. How do you get 642 caches in a day? Oh, we got bored. You wouldn't get bored. You wouldn't get bored after the first 100? Like, I love it. I love it. I know, exactly, Chosen. Wow, 600 plus is crazy. It absolutely is. Absolutely is. So the day I did mine, I was with No Tomorrow, coming back from ACT actually, and we spent the day and we did the dog head. Have you seen that one? It's the
Yeah,
head
I haven't done it, but I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah, and they're all traditional.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the road is actually in the shape of a dog's head. I thought, well, look how clever that is.
Yeah,
You know, not very often. Not very often you can actually get a geo art in traditional.
That's
Yeah.
it. Well, we do have one in the ACT, which is good. It's the
Cowan route.
yeah, that's right, and that's because it's at Cowan Forest where there's, well, traditionally lots and lots of pine trees. So you could basically, yes, you could put one trad wherever you liked.
Yeah.
Mind you, becoming increasingly hard to maintain for the owner because more and more they are logging that forest. So
yeah. I did a 3-day long weekend for that one. I was with my old. I'm going to say I'm not sure they listen to this. That's okay. I was with my old mates. I was with Aries 44, a brewmaker himself, and Pipes Down Under. So the 4 of us, and we camped in the middle. So he said, I got the key access, and then we get camped in the middle, and we just camped, and then we did 1 day. We started at the bottom, started the whole lot, and did 1 day there, and then back at camp, had dinner and drinks. Next day out early, doing the rest, back, and 3rd day did the rest of it. So.
But did you use a car? And it shouldn't have taken 3 days. I don't know. I did it in 3 days, but I did it all on either on bike or on foot.
We were bikes. We were on bikes. We had our mountain bikes.
Yes.
Yeah. We had our mountain bikes with us, and I had old men with me, so I couldn't go too fast. Although, in some cases, though, Aries 44, who was the eldest out of all of us, he was ahead most of the time. Like he's a fit young man. He is, I tell you.
Yep.
So, all right. Julie says, and the dog's head is great, but Kingfisher AU has awesome caches around the area as well. He does. I've done a few of his, and I did. Again, I didn't have that much time when I was in that area, so I literally did a pull by favourite list. You know what I mean? Did a, what do you call it? Filter by favourite list, by favourite points. And all his come up, and I just did his favourites. And again, I was with all the favourites coming through. So no, it was pretty good.
Oh, that happens more and more nowadays. I mean, in the old days, you used to go out caching and you just find everything because there'd be 5 in a particular town. Now you get a town and there's like 500. Well, you got to go by the favourites. You can't just do the lot.
That's right, exactly. Although in saying that, these power, or Lisa K, g'day to you, Aquilas, she says the US power trails are crazy. They are. Have you ever been? You've been to the US, haven't you, Thomas?
No, I have not cached in the US.
That's another thing I've got over you. I've got 26. I've got 26 states in the US.
Wow. 26. Well, I mean, it would have been this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Crossing fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been in 26 states though.
if Trump had his way, it'd be all over and done with by Easter. But apparently he's retracted that. So yeah, he's retracted that apparently. So that's pretty cool. But with those power trails, though, guys, people say to me all the time, you know, oh, they're all the same hides, whatever. If it's a power trail, in my mind, a power trail's pretty much good for numbers. If you want to get your numbers up, if you want to get a couple of hundred in a day, all that sort of stuff, like you guys did, that's what they're good for. But number 2, and they, in my mind, if you get 10 of them, then you get a favourite point to give to a quality cache afterwards.
7, I think. 7?
Sorry?
Isn't it
What's
7?
10.
Is it 10 now?
10. It's always been 10. Well, ever since I've been caching, it's 10.
Oh, okay.
See, because when you started in 2000, there was no such thing as favourite points. When did they come in?
I had so many finds. That means I've got more favourites than I can give out. So I've got that.
That's right. Exactly. So you say, for instance, guys, if some people don't know this, favourite points only got developed, I think it was in 2010, maybe, I'm guessing. And if it was in 2010 and TankEngine is on say round figures 2,000 caches, therefore then straight away, bang, he gets 200 favourite points. He's like, what are these things to give out? Like, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. All right. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining in the live chat as well. I do very much appreciate it. Keep an eye out. Things may different, may change. We may have someone taking over the podcast, but nothing is in concrete as yet. But if you would like to, then go ahead, contact me in any way, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, whatever means possible. You want to contact me, and let's have a chat. I am very, very happy to hand this over with everything that's already ready to go, and you can hit the ground running, basically. And as I said, I'll even come to you guys as well, wherever you may live in Australia or New Zealand, for a weekend. All I ask is that you put me up, and that you take me caching after you've learnt all the podcasts. That's it. Take me to all of your hides, all your D5s.
All 900 of them.
Sorry?
All 900.
No, your D5s, mate. Your D5s.
D5s.
Your D5 puzzles. I mean, you had a puzzle, a D5 puzzle that no one solved for 2 years.
Yeah.
We didn't get to that.
Yeah, that was. Well, I was surprised it didn't get. So actually, technically, it was solved earlier. But the person who solved it must have solved it after 6 months or something. But he was in Perth, so he couldn't come here, and nobody else solved it, so it wasn't found for 2 years.
Wow, wasn't unfound for 2 years. Look at that. I know. Darkside Dan. I'm going to put him in here as well. I do believe he was trying to fake place caches around to be within the 161 meters.
Yeah, they were. That was the whole thing. They were trying to battleship my cache.
That's what did battleship.
They put out about 30 or 40 caches to try and, because they knew it had to be within 3.4 k's of where my published coordinates were, or whatever the deal is. Yep. And so they were trying to battleship it to try and hit it.
Oh, I like it.
That failed. They didn't actually succeed with that.
Yeah, no. Well, there was it from South Australia? Person from South Australia got it?
No, Perth.
No, from Perth. They got it from Perth, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes.
A few years later. Yeah, there you go.
Came over from Perth. Yep.
Interesting. And what's the GC code of that one, or what's the name of that one?
It's called Perplexing Pentominoes. I don't know the code off the top of my head.
Hang on. I'll look. How long was it hidden? It's a mystery.
Must be about 3 years ago. I can find out for you. Hang on, if I go in.
I'm flicking through. I'm still in 2012. You bugger.
I just find it in GSAC because I keep everything in there.
Yeah, I don't do any of the GSAC stuff. That's what I mean. I don't do hardly anything of what you guys do, especially the old school. But here it is. It is, guys, it is GC6VKWE. GC6VKWE. And I am going to copy and paste that into a banner. Create a banner for you. Add banner. There it is. GC6VKWE, Perplexing Pentominoes. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Have a look at that, guys. And if you think you are a puzzle king or queen, have a crack and see how you go. And you know what? If you do solve it, then congratulations. Put it on your solve list. The next time you go to the ACT, you can actually you can pick it up. How many times has it been found now? Let me just have a look. It's been found. It's 42 times.
Yeah, 42. But you know, it's like all puzzles.
That's like sharing.
It wasn't found for 2 years, and then it was found, and then it's an exponential thing, just like this virus. It'll get found 2 or 3 more. So somehow the hints get out.
we should do a mystery and call it the corona.
Yeah, well,
doesn't get found for a while, and then all of a sudden gets found, and then just it goes from there. But yeah, do a cache called the Corona and make it bat themed or something. I don't know. But anyway. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I've got to get into this broadcast. It's already been too long. And Thomas, it's time for your bedtime. Look,
Nearly.
Exactly. All right, guys. Good night, everyone, and good night, mate. Bye.
Good night. Thanks. Most enjoyable. See ya.